Okay, my name is Rushi Kumar. I'm with DMF Lighting. I am the Vice President of Engineering, and we are based in California. So DMF manufactures high-performance LED lighting solutions. And this channel, the CI channel, has been a major focus for us, and we're really kind of loving the show so far.
Tell me about your journey in engineering.
So my journey in engineering started say 25 years ago. I had no intention, and I actually moved from the UK for a job with Lutron. So I worked for Lutron in Pennsylvania for 8 years, and then moved on to Crestron for 12 years, and then finally took a leap and moved out to California with DMF, and have been there for 6 years.
Go back further than Lutron.
Further than Lutron? So I got into engineering as an electrical engineer, kind of just from an early age. Loved tinkering, loved making products, loved pulling apart whatever toys I had in order to get a motor to spin. And that's really what led me down to kind of making products.
And I ask because I have a CPE in the family, and witnessing the engineering process and the journey, which is different for everyone. I was speaking with a CEO of a company yesterday who's an engineer, and I made the assumption because he was in he has a power company that he was an EE. He was not. He went to school as a civil engineer, which I thought was interesting because his intent was to go into construction. The reason I think it's so fascinating is because I think it is in the design and architecture community, down to the specifier, to the homeowner. I think the engineering is often a lost element that is so incredibly important, because what engineers go through during the education process is this rewiring, no pun intended, but it is a rewiring of the brain and challenging the way that you think. And I'm going to sort of go out on a limb and say that challenging the way that you think about electrical engineering and what lighting can be, that seems to me is like part of the journey. And I'm just curious how that's affected the way that you approach the product design.
For sure. As an engineer, you're always thinking about, why is something done a certain way? Why can't we do it better? Why can't we make it smaller? Why can't we just solve these problems? So you basically end up working on things that other people think are trivial, but you know that this is not trivial. There's actually something to it. You can just get past this problem, solve it. And then the key to, I guess, being a good engineer is knowing how to convert that into something that's useful, right? So actually make a product that people want, that people like, versus a piece of technology that's cool but serves no purpose.
And down to the point where you break it down, take it apart, deconstruct it, in order to get it to do something else for which it was not originally intended. And I bring that up because I want to dive into the lighting a little bit. I want to talk about what you do, what the company makes, and why you make it the way that you do. And lighting, this is a very basic conversation, but we've had it a couple of times during the course of CEDIA Expo 2025 here in Denver. This idea that, 8 to 10 years ago, we're still working with incandescent. Then we got into that horrible CFL phase. Then we entered into the LED phase, or if you're into arts, then a whole halogen thing with heat output that was just incredible. But the LED phase, which was a binary on-off option, what you can do now with LED lighting, with lighting in general, that speaks to a lighting plan that an interior designer can craft on behalf of their clients based on what they want and what they need and how they want to live. These are conversations we're having conversations now that we haven't really had before. And I find that fascinating, and I'm sure you must too.
For sure. So that transition to LED lighting has been good and been bad for the industry. Everybody loved the incandescent light. My home looked great. Lighting controls worked phenomenally. I could dim and things just looked wonderful, right? Energy code driving the adoption of CFL was terrible, right? So the quality of light dropped just to the floor. It was terrible. Lighting controls really made no difference because you had a poor quality light source. LEDs came along, the bar was still very low. So LEDs were expensive. They didn't have to be very good. They just had to be better than CFL. So again, lighting control was secondary. You had this expensive lighting control system, but a poor quality lighting fixture, you got a poor experience. Now what we're doing is saying, look, LEDs don't have to be poor quality. They don't have to be expensive. They can take you back to what you experienced with incandescent. So, we've always strived to do is take LED technology and implement things like warm dim, tunable, so that you get that quality of light out that you really love, right? And now with LED, you can do more things. You can shrink the fixture down, right? So now the aperture size, you get away from that 6-inch fixture because you're not dissipating 100 watts. And now, our standard is getting down to 2 inches for this channel, and it's going to keep shrinking. The adoption of linear lighting as well. All of this is part of what LEDs can do. And it's not just an LED, it's all the electronics behind it. So now we're integrating more intelligence in the fixture so you could tell the fixture what to do. And that's really part of what we're showing this year at CEDIA.
Can you do me a favor and dive deeper into that linear lighting, programmable options? And I'm asking on behalf of the interior designers who are not here, because this idea that you can program lighting based on physical orientation of a project and where the windows are and where the sunlight comes in the morning, in the afternoon, end of day. You can program for color. You can program to enhance and accentuate skin tone. Because it used to be that lighting paid no attention to skin tone. You can look at making the art pop. You can look at color matching against a color palette that was designed. And I think adding these kinds of tools to an interior designer's toolbox is it's like going from manual screwdrivers to a power screwdriver. That's how it feels to me.
For sure. So with the introduction of digital lighting, it opens up a whole different set of tools for the designer, because now they can accentuate individual pieces or elements in the room. So we get a lot of call now from customers that want to fine-tune individual pieces of artwork. Like, that's part of the scene. I want to accentuate this piece of artwork. There's another piece of artwork next to it that's set up differently. There's a sculpture next to it that's set up differently. And previously, it would be extremely expensive to have individual control of each of those circuits. Now, with digital lighting, they have the opportunity to fine-tune every single fixture and control each fixture. And that's the same with linear. The introduction of linear lighting and recessed downlighting, the biggest problem was always they don't match. And so what we've really pushed for now is the same color spectrum, the same control technology, the same dimming, the smoothness, it's all cohesive. So when you control your lighting, it feels like it's one.
I want to throw a couple scenarios at you, because actually, let me back up a second. When it comes to apps and remote operations, how do you think about that?
I think those are all kind of fun things, but I think the industry became too complicated and technology became so complicated that homeowners just got turned off, right? That there's no way to control the TV and change the channel because there's 15 pieces of equipment in between. And now I think everyone sees that, and we've swung back to, look, it needs to be simple. Anyone's elderly parent needs to be able to come in and turn the lights on. They need to be able to turn the TV on. They need to be able to do what they need to do. So you see that everywhere. Keypads are getting simpler. Remotes are getting simpler. Lighting control is going to get simpler. And that's really what we need to do is, enable high quality experiences without complication.
Do you have an app?
We have developed apps for commissioning purposes to simplify the commissioning and installation. So, it enables the integrators to get onto a job site, get things installed, get things set up, and have the flexibility to fine-tune it. But then we really partner with all the controls companies to deliver the best experience. So an example is, we, with our PhaseX products, partnered with Crestron and Crestron Home to really develop a very simple end-to-end cohesive solution that's easy to configure, easy to commission, easy for the homeowner to make changes and extract, full value out of their lighting.
How do you think about AI? And I ask the question because if I'm asking a question, it's because there are thousands of other people asking that very same question.
Sure.
Because where we are is so new to the consumer side of the business that people don't really know how to use it or how to apply it. As it relates to lighting, as it relates to product, how do you think about AI and how do you integrate it into what you do?
I think today, where we are, AI serves as a useful assistant in the design phase, right? It can handle a lot of the administrative tasks. It can take floor plans in and actually provide you a summary of what's going on. So it's really like having a personal assistant that's doing a lot of the work for you, so you can focus on what your skill is. So as a designer, you can focus on how do I make the space better versus coming up with a budgetary quote. So today, I think that's where we need to apply AI. There's obviously going to be this demand that, all right, your lighting and your environment can all be automatically controlled based on AI, and it'll predict what you're doing, and it'll set the lights up just like you want them, and things will just happen. That will start to occur, but I think today the best way to use AI is to be more efficient with your time.
In an environment where artificial intelligence is trained on a model the model is trained by the behaviors of a homeowner. So a home can be programmed to achieve certain results based on behaviors that it can actually learn in the process too. If there's a 13-year-old living in the house, they behave a certain way. When they become 17 and they've got a driver's license and they're doing other things, they behave differently. And you talk about aging in home, where as you get older, certain things have to be done. The lighting may need to change. The volume may need to change. There are certain things that can happen based on feeding the model. The algorithm learns from it, and then that affects the hardware side of it. Is that something that you think about?
It is definitely something that will happen. People are going to take advantage of the fact that people have very predictive behavior. So if something is out of the ordinary, you can raise alarms, especially for elderly care. You can recognize that somebody hasn't been moving around the home or lights not being controlled. And vice versa, you can predict what they want to do and get the scene set up. I mean, time clock scheduling is the most basic way of turning your outdoor lights on at 6 o'clock and turning them off in the middle of the night. That works. That achieves 90% of it. But knowing that someone always goes into the living room, turns on their light at 5:30 and sits down and watches TV, you can do that 30 seconds before they arrive or use sensors to predict it. And it just, if it's not perfect, they'll do it manually and the system self-corrects. So I think that is going to happen. And it's really part of the control systems and the lighting fixtures and the audio devices and the home theater devices all being part of this network.
And every year it gets better and smarter, hopefully.
It will go up and down, right? People may, again, swing back to, I do not want the system doing all this stuff automatically. I want to just turn the lights on when I want it. So it'll be a balancing act.
Like everything else. Thank you for doing this. This is fantastic.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.